In tears, the mail-order bride stepped off. What the cowboy said changed everything. She had traveled across 3 star systems to get here, her small transport ship carrying more fear than luggage. The hum of the engines and the faint clatter of the station's machinery made her heart beat faster. She clutched her satchel tightly, as though holding onto it could keep her grounded in a world that felt alien and vast. Ilara's journey had not been simple. Back on her home planet, the core worlds, life had become unbearable. The economy had collapsed, jobs vanished, and people began to look at strangers with suspicion. Her choice to become a mail-order bride was born of necessity, a desperate attempt to escape the struggles that had surrounded her since childhood. Yet now, as she looked out at the station, fear mingled with hope. The platform was empty, almost unnervingly so. A few crates and cargo bots clattered along, and the low hum of the life support systems was the only sound besides her own breathing. Ilara adjusted the straps of her satchel and swallowed. She had imagined arriving in a bustling station, people greeting her warmly, or at least someone standing with a sign bearing her name. Instead, there was silence, the kind that made her feel smaller than she had ever felt before. Then she saw him. Jax Calder stood a few meters away, leaning casually against a railing. His tall frame was relaxed but alert, the way a cowboy might watch over a herd of cattle. But in this case, the cattle were the drones and freighters patrolling the outskirts of Dustfall. His face was partially shadowed by a wide-brimmed hat that reminded her of old stories she had read of frontier lawmen, yet his eyes were sharp and assessing. He looked at her, and for a moment, Ilara thought she saw a flicker of curiosity, or perhaps amusement. "You must be Ilara Vance," he said finally, his voice low and calm. She nodded, unable to speak immediately. Words seemed to fail her as the reality of the station pressed down. It was nothing like the images in the holographic brochures. The docking bays were rusty, with small patches of corrosion visible on metal surfaces. Cargo ships of all sizes jostled for space, and small repair bots scuttled like insects along the edges of the platforms. Dustfall Station was alive, but it was a living thing that had seen more struggle than beauty. I am," she finally managed to whisper. Jax pushed himself off the railing and took a step toward her. He did not smile, and he did not extend a hand. Instead, he observed her with quiet patience. There was something in his posture that told her he had seen many people arrive here, and most left disappointed. She felt her chest tighten. "I didn't come here for a vacation," she said, trying to mask her nerves with confidence. He tilted his head slightly. "Good, you shouldn't. Dustfall isn't for vacations." Ilara blinked. The words were not what she had expected, but then, before she could respond, the gravity of her emotions caught her off guard. She felt tears prick at the edges of her eyes. Years of uncertainty, of fear, and of the loneliness that had followed her across star systems seemed to collapse into that moment. I'm sorry," she whispered, trying to turn away. Jax did not move closer. He did not scold her. Instead, he said something she would remember for the rest of her life. "You don't owe me anything, not even staying." The words struck her like a cold wind. No one had ever offered her freedom so plainly, not in her family, not in her friends, not even in contracts or agreements she had signed without understanding. The simplicity of it, the honesty, shook something inside her. For a moment she felt hope, fragile but real, growing amidst the fear. The station seemed different now. The hum of the engines was no longer oppressive, and the movement of the cargo bots felt purposeful instead of chaotic. Dustfall Station was not a trap. It was a place built for survival, for those who dared to carve their own path. And for the first time in years, Ilara felt that she might have a place here. Jax turned and began walking toward the nearest docking bay, his long strides steady and purposeful. Ilara hesitated. She wanted to follow, but part of her was still clinging to the last threads of safety from her past life. The station might be dangerous, alien, even harsh, but it was also alive, and alive things could be understood. Summoning her courage, she stepped forward. The metal floor of the platform was cold beneath her boots, and the smell of engine oil and recycled air filled her senses. She followed Jax, her heart pounding, her mind racing with questions. Who was this man really? Why had he said what he did? Could she trust him, or was he testing her? As they walked, Jax spoke again. You'll see Dustfall isn't like other stations. People think it's weak because it's small, but it's human, built by humans, defended by humans, and humans don't give up easily. Alara listened, her curiosity piqued. She had heard stories of human colonies surviving against impossible odds, of outlaws and traitors navigating the edges of the galaxy with nothing but wit and courage. But she had never imagined standing in one herself. Now she was here, and the reality of survival was closer than she had expected. They reached the docking bay where her transport ship had settled, its engines cooling with a low hiss. Jax gestured toward it. You can settle in. Take your time. Dustfall moves fast, but it also gives you space to breathe. Alara nodded, overwhelmed by gratitude and uncertainty alike. She moved toward the small quarters prepared for her, glancing back at Jax one last time. His presence was steady, reassuring in a way that words could not capture. She realized that survival on Dustfall would not be about fighting the aliens who watched the station from the void, nor about defying the harsh conditions of space. It would be about learning, adapting, and choosing, about taking the freedom he had offered and making it her own. As she stepped into her new quarters, she allowed herself a single deep breath. Dustfall Station was not the end of her journey, it was the beginning. And for the first time, she felt the stirrings of hope. Hours later, as the station's lights flickered on and the horizon of the dying sun cast long shadows across the platforms, Alara wandered back to the edge of the docking bay. She watched the ships come and go, and in the distance, she saw the glint of Jax's ship, ready for another patrol. She realized that life on Dustfall would be hard, uncertain, and unpredictable, but it would also be hers. And that simple truth, the realization that she had been given choice, filled her with a quiet strength. She had stepped off the transport in tears, but she would not remain in fear. Dustfall was a frontier, and she would face it like the human she was, resilient, curious, and unbroken. For the first time since leaving her home, Alara felt that she had arrived somewhere she could belong, somewhere she could survive. Somewhere she could be more than just a passenger in life. She could be a part of the story that humans were still writing in the stars. And as the station hummed around her and the distant planets turned silently beneath the red sun, she whispered to herself, "This is just the beginning." Alara woke to the soft hum of Dustfall Station's life systems. Light from the red sun filtered through the narrow observation window, painting the metal walls with warm orange tones. She stretched, feeling muscles stiff from the long journey, and glanced around the small room that would be her home. It was simple: a bed, a table, a locker for her belongings, and a small sink. Not luxurious, but clean and, more importantly, functional. She opened the locker and examined her satchel, still full of essentials she had carried across star systems. A few clothes, personal records, and small keepsakes from her past life. They felt strange in this new place. The galaxy she had traveled across was vast, unpredictable, and often lonely, but Dustfall had a different air. It was alive with purpose. She could feel it. Stepping out into the corridors, Alara marveled at how Dustfall Station functioned. Unlike other frontier stations she had read about, it was organized. Robots cleaned the floors, transport tubes carried cargo between docking bays, and a small market area buzzed quietly with activity. Humans moved among the aliens with confidence, their presence commanding respect without aggression. It was subtle but undeniable. Dustfall was human-made and human-driven, and everyone who lived here knew it. As she walked, she noticed small signs of care in the station's construction. The walkways had guardrails designed to protect travelers from sudden shifts in gravity. The air filtration systems were efficient, filtering out even the smallest particles from the red planet's dust storms. Alara realized that this station had not just been built, it had been engineered for survival. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of footsteps behind her. She turned to see Jax approaching, the same calm expression on his face. "Good morning," he said. His tone was neutral, but there was a warmth beneath the surface. "Morning," Alara replied. She tried to sound more confident than she felt. "Where are you going?" Jax tilted his head. "Patrol. Check the perimeter, make sure the drones are functioning, and confirm the trade ships are on schedule." "Want to come?" Alara hesitated. "Patrol, out there beyond the station." The idea was intimidating, but curiosity outweighed fear. "Yes," she said finally. Jax nodded, and together they walked toward the hangar. Along the way, he explained the basics. Dustfall isn't just a station, it's a hub. We control several asteroid routes and mining operations nearby. Humans built this place to survive, to thrive where no one else thought it possible. Alara listened intently. "So, it's not just about hiding from the aliens." "No," Jax said. "It's about showing them that humans can survive anywhere. Other species may have advanced ships or technology, but humans adapt. We endure." When they reached the hangar, Alara saw the ships lined up like soldiers at attention. Small freighters, scout ships, and even personal hovercraft were polished and ready. Each one had a purpose, and each one had a human behind its controls. Jax gestured toward a medium-sized craft with reinforced hull plating. "This is yours if you want it. I'll show you how to operate it, but mainly it's for learning. You'll need to know Dustfall's systems if you plan to stay." Alara's heart raced. She had never piloted a ship herself, but the opportunity to learn filled her with excitement. "I'll try," she said. Jax's smile was faint, but it reached his eyes. "Good, step by step, you'll do fine." As they prepared for their patrol, other humans greeted them along the way. A mechanic waved from a maintenance platform, a trader nodded from her kiosk, and a scientist hurried past with datapads in hand. Each person seemed busy but confident, and each seemed to radiate the same unspoken message. This station belonged to them, and they belonged to it. The patrol began smoothly. Alara followed Jax through the corridors and into the outer decks, where drones hovered over the asteroid belts. The sight was breathtaking. The station's defensive drones glimmered like fireflies against the void of space, moving in precise patterns. Jax showed her how to read the drone signals, interpret their patrol routes, and identify potential issues. "You see," Jax said, pointing at a distant asteroid, "this one has a small mining colony. Humans set it up last year. The aliens ignore it because they think it's insignificant. But every small colony strengthens Dustfall. Every human skill matters." Alara felt a thrill of pride she hadn't experienced before. Here, humans were more than passengers or workers. They were architects, defenders, and problem solvers. Every choice mattered. Every action had weight. She could contribute. She could be part of something bigger than herself. Their patrol continued, and soon they came across a group of alien traders hovering near the station. The aliens watched Dustfall with curiosity and skepticism, sending signals that seemed to probe the humans' defenses. Most humans would have panicked, but not here. Jax stood tall, and the other patrolling humans maintained a calm, neutral presence. The aliens eventually drifted away, not because of threats, but because humans were unpredictable. Alara turned to Jax, her mind buzzing. "Why don't we just scare them off?" Jax shook his head. "Humans don't need to scare. We survive. We adapt. Fear only works for a moment. Strength comes from knowing who you are and what you can do." The lesson was simple but powerful. Alara realized that Dustfall's human strength was not weapons or technology. It was the people themselves. Each person had skills, determination, and confidence. And together, They made a frontier that no alien power could easily challenge. After the patrol, Jax led Alara to a quiet observation deck overlooking the asteroid belt. The view was stunning. Dust and rock floated silently, catching the light from the distant sun. Ships moved along invisible highways, and the station itself seemed small but purposeful against the vastness of space. "Do you see it now?" Jax asked. "This is what humans do. We make life where none seems possible. We build, we adapt, we survive, and we do it together." Alara nodded, swallowing her fear. She could feel the truth in his words. For the first time, she felt she belonged somewhere her choices mattered. Over the next few days, Alara explored Dustfall Station, meeting its residents and learning their stories. She met a former engineer who had designed the station's energy grid, a botanist cultivating plants in artificial soil, and a small group of children who had grown up learning to operate drones as naturally as they learned to walk. Each human she met reinforced the same lesson. Survival was not just about strength, it was about cooperation, creativity, and courage. One evening, as she walked along the outer decks, she saw a small group of aliens watching the station from a distance. Unlike the traders from before, these ones seemed curious, even cautious. They whispered among themselves, observing human activity. Alara understood what Jax had said earlier. The aliens did not challenge humans openly because humans were unpredictable, capable of actions that could not be anticipated or controlled. Dustfall's human residents were different. They were not soldiers in uniform, nor mercenaries with contracts. They were ordinary humans who had learned to live on the edge of space. Their ingenuity, patience, and persistence made them stronger than any alien force that expected submission. Alara felt a surge of determination. She wanted to be like them, not just surviving but thriving. She wanted to learn, to adapt, to contribute. And as she thought about her past life, all the fear and uncertainty she had carried across star systems seemed smaller, less important. Dustfall had given her a chance, and she would not waste it. That night, as she lay in her small quarters, Alara reflected on what she had seen. Dustfall Station was more than a home. It was a symbol of human resilience. Each corridor, each ship, each resident was a piece of a larger story. The story of humans who refused to be weak, who refused to be controlled, who refused to give up even when the odds seemed impossible. Jax had offered her a choice when she arrived, and now she understood the weight of it. Here, she could remain trapped by fear, or she could embrace the freedom and responsibility that came with living on Dustfall. The station demanded effort, courage, and adaptability. But it also offered purpose, belonging, and hope. Alara closed her eyes and made a quiet promise to herself. She would learn, she would contribute, and she would become part of the frontier that humans were still shaping across the galaxy. In the vast emptiness beyond Dustfall, stars glimmered like distant fires. Somewhere out there, other alien civilizations watched and waited, unsure of what humans might do next. But inside the station, life hummed with quiet determination. Alara felt the same hum within her, a steady, persistent rhythm that whispered of possibility, courage, and a future she could shape herself. For the first time, she did not feel lost. She felt alive. The morning air in Dustfall Station felt sharper than usual, though it was artificially filtered. Alara could hear the faint hum of drones preparing for their daily patrols, and she knew that life on the station never truly slept. Today, she had a new task. Jax had asked her to assist with the supply schedules for the outer mining colonies. It was her first real responsibility beyond learning the routines of the station. She adjusted the straps of her satchel and walked to the logistics hub, a large room filled with screens and floating holographic maps. Here, humans monitored the movement of goods, drones, and ships throughout the station and the nearby asteroid colonies. Alara had been briefed on the basics, but today she would manage part of the operation herself. "Ready?" Jax asked, leaning casually against the edge of a console. His eyes scanned the holographic projections with precision. Alara nodded. "I think so." "Then let's see what you've learned." Jax handed her a small datapad showing the supply routes for the day. One of the outer colonies had reported minor equipment delays. If not corrected, it could affect mining output and indirectly Dustfall's trade reputation. Alara studied the projections carefully. She could see the flow of drones, the timing of supply ships, and the orbital adjustments required for safe transit between asteroids. Taking a deep breath, she began rerouting supplies, adjusting schedules, and coordinating drone patrols. It was like solving a complex puzzle, and for the first time, she felt her mind completely engaged. Jax watched silently, occasionally offering suggestions or pointing out small errors. Each correction taught her not just how to manage supplies, but why each choice mattered. Hours passed quickly. Alara moved between screens, recalculating trajectories, confirming shipments, and communicating with drone operators. She realized that survival on Dustfall was not just about ships or weapons. It was about coordination, attention to detail, and human ingenuity. Every small decision had a ripple effect across the station and the outer colonies. Suddenly, the hub's main alert system chimed. A message appeared: alien trade convoy approaching Dustfall perimeter, unknown intent, estimated arrival 2 hours. Alara's heart skipped a beat. She had expected challenges, but the idea of aliens observing Dustfall closely was intimidating. The station had always been safe, carefully protected by human knowledge and preparation, but now the test was real. Jax leaned toward her console. "This is where you see Dustfall's real strength. Notice the convoy. They're not attacking, they're watching." Most species would see a small station and assume it's easy prey, but humans don't act predictably. Alara nodded, feeling a mix of fear and excitement. She understood what Jax meant. Dustfall's power was subtle. It came from planning, from intelligence, from adaptability. "Let's reroute the supply drones to make the station look busier," Jax suggested. "Move the freighters to signal readiness. We don't threaten, we demonstrate capability." Alara quickly executed the orders. Drones shifted their patrols, freighters adjusted their positions, and holographic projections were displayed for anyone observing. She watched as the alien convoy slowed, seemingly reassessing the station. Dustfall was alive with activity, not out of fear but from human efficiency and determination. "Good," Jax said, his voice low but approving. "You're learning. Humans survive not by brute force but by knowing our value and showing it." As the convoy drifted closer, a communication signal came through. The alien commander's voice was formal, neutral, and unfamiliar in tone. "Dustfall Station, we observe your operations. You are inefficient. Why do you maintain so many resources for such a small colony?" Alara felt her palms grow sweaty. Jax's eyes met hers, steady and calm. He gestured toward the console. "Answer them truthfully but firmly. Humans don't hide our strength, we demonstrate it." Alara took a deep breath and tapped the microphone. "We maintain these resources because every colony matters. Every shipment, every drone, every operation is critical to our survival. Dustfall may be small, but we are efficient, prepared, and capable of sustaining ourselves against challenges." There was silence, and then the alien voice returned, slightly hesitant. "Your confidence is unusual. Observation continues." The signal ended. Alara exhaled, feeling a surge of pride. She had spoken for the station, and for the first time she realized she was not just a visitor. She was part of Dustfall, and she had contributed to its defense through thought, planning, and clear communication. The hours passed, and the alien convoy eventually drifted away, still observing from a distance. The immediate threat had passed, but the event had tested Dustfall, and more importantly, it had tested Alara herself. She felt stronger, more capable, and more connected to the people around her. After the tension eased, Jax guided her to a small observation room overlooking the asteroid colonies. The red sun cast long shadows, and the station's lights reflected off the hulls of distant mining ships. "You did well today," he said. "Most new arrivals would have panicked or waited for orders. You acted, you adapted." Alara smiled faintly. "It felt important, like I mattered." "You do," Jax said simply. "Dustfall survives because humans take responsibility. Every skill counts, every choice counts. And today, you proved you could handle both." Over the next few days, Alara continued to assist with the station's operations. She learned to monitor drone routes, manage logistics, and coordinate communication between Dustfall and the outer colonies. Each task reinforced the lesson she had learned during the alien convoy observation. Humans survive not by fighting, but by thinking, planning, and adapting. She also began to understand the social structure of Dustfall. Humans here were not bound by rigid hierarchies or unnecessary rules. Each person had a role, but everyone contributed ideas, suggestions, and effort. Decisions were made collectively when necessary, and respect was earned through competence and cooperation. Alara felt a deep sense of belonging she had never experienced before. One afternoon, she helped a group of engineers reroute energy from a minor mining operation to the station's emergency reserves. It required careful timing, precise calculations, and constant communication. Alara focused on the task, her mind sharp and alert. When the energy transfer was complete, the engineers nodded in approval. "You've got a good sense for systems," one said. "Most newcomers fumble for days before they understand the flow. You picked it up in hours." Alara's cheeks warmed with pride. "Thank you, I just want to help." "That's all we ask," the engineer replied. "Every person who wants to help makes Dustfall stronger." That evening, Alara returned to her quarters, her mind buzzing with the events of the day. She thought about the alien convoy, the logistics she had managed, and the engineers who had welcomed her guidance. Dustfall was more than a station. It was a testament to human resilience. It had been tested today, and it had passed, and she had been a part of that success. Jax visited her later, bringing a small tray of food. They ate in comfortable silence, watching the red sun sink behind the asteroid belt. "You're changing," he said finally. "When you arrived, you were afraid, uncertain. Now you understand something important. Dustfall isn't just a place, it's a challenge, and humans rise to challenges." Alara nodded, savoring the warmth of the food and the quiet of the observation deck. "I think I'm beginning to understand," she said. "It's not just about surviving. It's about contributing, learning, and proving what humans can do, even in the most unlikely places." "That's right," Jax said, his voice low but firm. "And the more humans here who understand that, the stronger Dustfall becomes. Today, you proved your place. Tomorrow, you'll help us grow even more." The sun finally disappeared behind the horizon, leaving the station bathed in the soft glow of internal lights. Dustfall hummed with life, a small but enduring human outpost at the edge of space. Alara felt a deep sense of satisfaction and purpose. She had faced a real challenge and she had succeeded. She had proven herself, not just to Jax or to the station, but to herself. As she lay down to rest, Alara thought of the future. The galaxy beyond Dustfall was vast and unpredictable. There would be more challenges, more tests, and perhaps more encounters with aliens. But she now understood that humans did not survive by fear or submission. They survived by thinking, adapting, and acting together. For the first time since leaving her home, she felt ready. Dustfall had tested her and she had risen to the occasion. And in that quiet strength, she knew she could face whatever came next. Outside, the stars sparkled against the blackness of space. Within Dustfall, humans moved with purpose, intelligence, and cooperation. And somewhere within it all, Alara Vance felt the steady, enduring pulse of human resilience, a pulse that would carry her and Dustfall through challenges, yet to come. Ilara stood on the observation deck, staring at the asteroid belt stretching endlessly into space. The distant stars glittered like diamonds against the black void, and the red sun cast long shadows across Dustfall Station. She had grown comfortable here over the past weeks, learning the rhythms of the station, assisting with logistics, and even navigating a small patrol ship under Jax's guidance. Yet, a feeling of uncertainty lingered. She had learned to act and adapt, but there were moments when the weight of responsibility pressed down on her. Jax joined her quietly, leaning against the railing beside her. He didn't speak at first, letting the silence stretch between them. Ilara took a deep breath, wondering how much he understood of the thoughts running through her mind. "Jax," she said finally, breaking the quiet, "why did you tell me I didn't owe you anything the first day I arrived?" Jax's eyes met hers, calm and steady as always. "Because I meant it," he said simply. "You didn't owe me trust or loyalty or obedience. You didn't owe me anything, and I wanted you to know that before you made any decisions about Dustfall or about me." Ilara frowned slightly, still trying to understand. "But why? Most people wouldn't let someone arrive here and just walk away." He smiled faintly, the kind that didn't reach his eyes but softened his features. "Most people don't understand the frontier, Ilara. Out here, control is an illusion. You can't force someone to survive. You can't force someone to adapt, and you can't force someone to belong. Humans lose their way when they try. I've seen it happen on Dustfall and beyond. The moment you think you own someone, you lose the most important thing: trust, cooperation, and human spirit." Ilara listened, absorbing his words. It was different from anything she had ever heard. Back home, people measured value by obedience, contracts, or promises. Here on Dustfall, Jax spoke of respect, freedom, and choice as the truest measures of strength. Before she could respond, a communication alert chimed from the nearby console. An alien fleet was approaching the station. Not a convoy this time, but a coordinated group of scout ships, each larger and more advanced than the last. They weren't hostile yet, but their presence was deliberate. Jax straightened, his quiet calm sharpening. "Time for the real test," he said. "You're ready for this." Ilara followed him to the command hub. The station hummed with life. Humans moved quickly, checking drones, adjusting freighters, and coordinating with outlying colonies. The aliens circled Dustfall, sending signals that were difficult to interpret, observing carefully but making no immediate threat. Jax gestured toward a console displaying the alien formations. "Notice their patterns. They're testing Dustfall's response, not attacking but assessing. We can't predict exactly what they'll do. All we can do is act with clarity, adaptability, and cooperation." Ilara's hands moved over the controls, rerouting drones and ships, adjusting patrols, and ensuring that supply lines remained uninterrupted. Her mind raced with calculations and projections, but she felt confident. She had learned from her first patrol, the alien convoy, and the daily operations of Dustfall. She was ready to apply that knowledge. The aliens broadcast a message. Their tone was formal, slightly mechanical. "Dustfall Station, you demonstrate activity. Are you prepared for our assessment? Show efficiency or be noted as insignificant." Ilara's heart raced, but she remembered Jax's words. Humans did not react out of fear. They did not submit. They acted with intelligence and purpose. She tapped the microphone, her voice steady. "We are Dustfall Station. All operations are efficient and monitored. Every route, every colony, every drone is part of our coordinated effort. Dustfall is small, but we are capable, prepared, and adaptable. Observation is welcome." There was a pause, and then the aliens responded. "Efficiency noted. Observation continues." Ilara exhaled slowly. The tension in the hub eased, replaced by a quiet satisfaction. The aliens had tested Dustfall and for now had acknowledged its competence. She realized that this was the frontier life Jax had warned her about: constant challenges, testing, and the need to act intelligently. Later, she returned to the observation deck, feeling a mix of relief and pride. Jax followed, carrying 2 cups of synthetic coffee. He handed one to her and leaned against the railing. "You did well today," he said quietly. "You didn't just follow instructions, you made decisions. Humans survive not by orders alone, but by thinking, adapting, and acting with purpose." Alara sipped the coffee, savoring the warmth. It felt important, like I wasn't just part of Dustfall, but I was helping it survive. "That's because you were," Jax replied. "Dustfall isn't just about ships or drones, it's about people. Every person contributes. And every person who understands that becomes stronger, and so does Dustfall." Alara's thoughts returned to the first day she had arrived, crying and unsure. She remembered Jax's words, "You don't owe me anything, not even staying." Now she understood the depth of their meaning. He had offered her freedom, not because he didn't care, but because he respected her choice. Dustfall thrived not because people were forced to stay, but because they chose to belong, chose to contribute, and chose to act together. The next morning, Alara was assigned to coordinate a new energy delivery to one of the outer colonies. The path required careful navigation through asteroid fields and coordination with mining drones. She felt a surge of excitement. This was her first independent task that would directly affect Dustfall's survival. Jax accompanied her briefly, giving advice and checking her calculations. "Remember," he said, "humans survive because we anticipate, adapt, and communicate. Trust your training and your judgment." Alara nodded and piloted the small craft carefully, adjusting trajectories and monitoring energy levels. She noticed subtle changes in the asteroid field, shifts in gravitational pull, minor debris clusters. But she adapted, rerouted drones, and ensured the energy delivery would reach the colony safely. When she returned, the engineers and miners at the colony signaled their thanks. Alara felt a deep sense of pride. This was her contribution, and it mattered. Dustfall's survival depended not just on Jax or the leadership, but on every individual who acted with responsibility and intelligence. Over the next several days, the alien scouts returned intermittently, observing but never attacking. Each time, Alara coordinated patrols, managed logistics, and communicated clearly with both the station and the outer colonies. Dustfall held steady, demonstrating its resilience through human ingenuity and cooperation. One evening, as the red sun dipped below the horizon, Alara found herself back on the observation deck. The station was quiet now, the hum of life steady and reassuring. She reflected on her journey, from tears on the docking platform, uncertain and afraid, to a person capable of contributing meaningfully to the survival of a human frontier station. Jax joined her once again. "You've grown," he said simply. "Not just in skill, but in understanding. Dustfall survives because humans act together, but it thrives because humans choose to belong." Alara smiled faintly. "I think I understand now. You weren't just being kind when you gave me that choice on my first day. You were showing me the core of what Dustfall and humans truly are." "That's right," Jax replied. "Freedom and responsibility, respect and choice. That is how humans endure, adapt, and thrive. And now you understand it too." Alara looked out over the station, the distant asteroid colonies, and the faint glimmer of alien scouts far beyond. For the first time, she felt truly connected to Dustfall, to its people, and to its purpose. She realized that strength was not measured in weapons or size, but in intelligence, cooperation, and the courage to act wisely. The stars sparkled in the void beyond the station, endless and mysterious. But inside Dustfall, humans moved with purpose, each one contributing to the survival and growth of their frontier home. And Alara, once a fearful traveler, now stood among them as a capable, respected member of the station. The cowboy had meant what he said. She owed no one anything. But she had chosen to stay. She had chosen to belong. and in that choice she had found her place and her strength. As the station hummed softly around her, Ilara whispered to herself, a quiet vow carrying through the observation deck. I will rise to every challenge. I will help Dustfall thrive. I will be part of this frontier, not because I must, but because I choose to. And with that, the station and its human residents continued their quiet, steady vigilance against the vast unknown of space. Resilient, intelligent, and unbroken, Dustfall Station glowed softly under the light of the distant red sun. Its metallic surfaces reflected the stars beyond, casting the corridors and docking bays in a warm, steady glow. Life hummed quietly, a rhythm of work and purpose that seemed to carry itself through every room and hallway. Ilara Vance moved through the station with confidence now, her steps steady and sure. She had learned, adapted, and contributed, and the station had become her home. The week since the alien scouts' tests had been busy. Supply chains had been refined, drone patrols had been optimized, and the outer mining colonies had become more efficient under Ilara's coordination. Dustfall was no longer just a place to survive. It was a thriving hub of human ingenuity, a symbol of resilience in the edge of the galaxy. Ilara paused on the observation deck, looking out at the asteroids below. The mining colonies glimmered like tiny jewels against the dark void of space, each one humming with activity. She felt a deep sense of satisfaction. Every calculation, every decision she had made had contributed to their survival. Dustfall was not perfect, but it was strong and it was human. Jax approached quietly, carrying 2 cups of synthetic coffee. He handed one to Ilara and leaned against the railing beside her. "You've grown," he said, "not just in skill, but in understanding. Dustfall isn't just about machines or strategy, it's about people. Humans make it what it is." Ilara smiled, sipping her coffee. "I know, I see it now. Every person here contributes. Every choice matters. That's what makes Dustfall strong." Jax nodded. "And the galaxy notices. News of Dustfall has spread. Other colonies, other stations, other species, they watch. They see humans building, adapting, and surviving where others thought it impossible. Dustfall is becoming a symbol." Ilara felt a thrill of pride. The thought that humans, just ordinary people, could inspire others across the galaxy filled her with a sense of purpose. But she also felt a weight of responsibility. Being part of Dustfall meant not just surviving, but ensuring that it continued to thrive. Their conversation was interrupted by a communication alert. A new alien delegation had arrived, this time not scouts but observers from a neutral system, curious about Dustfall's methods. Ilara guided them to a viewing platform where the station's operations could be observed safely. She explained the logistics, the energy transfers, the patrol schedules, and the careful coordination that kept the colonies running. The aliens watched intently. Their expressions were unreadable, but their interest was clear. When Ilara finished, one of them spoke through a translator. "Your operations are remarkable, small yet efficient, coordinated yet adaptable. Dustfall is exceptional." Ilara exchanged a glance with Jax, who gave a subtle nod. She had never expected such acknowledgement, but she realized that this was the result of every human effort on Dustfall. It was proof that ingenuity, cooperation, and determination mattered, even across species and star systems. Over the next few days, the station received more visitors, traders, settlers, and curious explorers. Many came with skepticism, expecting Dustfall to be weak, inefficient, or chaotic, but every time they left impressed. Humans on Dustfall had created a system where every individual could contribute, where every skill mattered, and where resilience and intelligence triumphed over size or technology alone. Ilara's role grew steadily. She coordinated more complex missions, managed new energy deliveries, and even trained newcomers in logistics and drone management. Her confidence flourished alongside her competence. Dustfall had tested her, and she had risen to every challenge. The station was no longer a frontier outpost. It was a school, a hub, and a beacon of human capability. One evening, Jax invited Alara to join a small ceremony on the central platform. The residents of Dustfall had gathered to celebrate the station's anniversary, a quiet acknowledgement of their survival, ingenuity, and cooperation. Humans and visitors alike stood under the glow of artificial lights, watching the asteroid colonies and the station itself as a symbol of persistence. Jack spoke briefly, his voice calm but resonant. Dustfall survives because humans believe in themselves and in each other. We build where others see nothing, we endure where others surrender, and we thrive because we choose to belong, to contribute, and to act together. Applause followed, and Alara felt a swell of pride. She had been a part of this, a small piece of the station's growing legacy. She understood now why Jax had given her the freedom to choose on the first day. Dustfall relied not on obedience, but on willing participation. It thrived because humans chose to contribute, not because they were forced. As the celebration continued, Alara wandered toward the observation deck, looking out at the stars and the asteroid colonies below. She felt a sense of quiet awe. Humans had built Dustfall in the most unlikely place, tested themselves against challenges, and proven that ingenuity, courage, and cooperation could overcome even the vast emptiness of space. Her thoughts were interrupted by a voice at her side. "You've done well," Jax said. He handed her a small datapad with new assignments. "But there's more to come. Dustfall will face bigger tests, new arrivals, and unforeseen challenges. Every one of them will require intelligence, patience, and coordination. Are you ready?" Alara smiled, her confidence steady. "Yes, I'm ready. Dustfall is my home, and I'll do whatever it takes to help it thrive." Jax nodded, and together they watched the station below, the asteroid colonies beyond, and the endless stars in the distance. Dustfall hummed with life, every drone, freighter, and resident contributing to a shared purpose. The station was small, but it was strong, resilient, and human, and the humans within it were ready to rise to every challenge. The weeks passed, and Dustfall continued to grow. More settlers arrived, not mail-order brides or simple workers, but families, engineers, explorers, and scientists who saw the station as a place of opportunity. Each new arrival was welcomed, trained, and integrated into the community. The station thrived not through dominance, but through intelligence, cooperation, and human spirit. Alara continued her work, training newcomers, coordinating operations, and assisting with logistics. Her contributions became known among the residents, who respected her for her skill, dedication, and calm determination. She had transformed from a fearful newcomer into a capable leader, ready to face any challenge Dustfall might encounter. One evening, as she looked out from the observation deck, she noticed a small group of alien ships approaching from a distant system. Unlike the scouts and observers before, these ships were neutral, neither hostile nor threatening. They seemed curious, cautious, and respectful. Alara realized that Dustfall had become more than a station, it had become a legend. Across the frontier, humans were recognized not just for survival, but for ingenuity, cooperation, and intelligence. Dustfall had demonstrated what humans could achieve when given freedom, responsibility, and the choice to belong. She thought of the first day she had arrived, crying and unsure, and of Jax's words, "You don't owe me anything, not even staying." Now she understood fully. He had given her the freedom to choose, and that choice had allowed her to grow, adapt, and become part of something larger than herself. Dustfall had not just tested her, it had shaped her. The alien ships lingered at a distance, observing quietly. Alara watched them, confident that Dustfall's resilience, intelligence, and cooperation would speak louder than any weapon or threat. Humans had shown time and again that they survived, adapted, and thrived against impossible odds, and Dustfall was living proof. Later, as the station settled into its nightly rhythm, Jax joined Alara once more. "You've come a long way," he said quietly. "Dustfall is stronger because of people like you. And one day, others will tell stories about this station, about humans surviving and thriving at the edge of space. They'll tell stories about you." Alara felt a deep sense of purpose. She understood now that Dustfall's strength was not measured in technology, ships, or numbers, but in the people who chose to belong, to contribute, and to act wisely. She had found her place among them, and she knew she would continue to rise to every challenge. The station hummed softly around them, a steady rhythm of life and purpose. Dustfall Station, small but unbroken, glowed against the darkness of space. Humans moved with intelligence, courage, and determination, shaping a frontier that others had doubted. And at the center of it all, Ilara Vance stood proud, ready for whatever the galaxy might bring. The red sun dipped below the horizon, leaving the station bathed in the soft glow of internal lights. Outside, stars sparkled against the infinite void. Inside, Dustfall thrived, a beacon of human ingenuity and resilience. And Alara, once a fearful traveler, now a capable leader, smiled quietly, knowing that she was part of something extraordinary, a story of humans who survived, adapted, and became legends at the edge of the stars. Dustfall had become a symbol. Humans had shown the galaxy that their strength was not in weapons or size, but in choice, intelligence, and cooperation. And in that truth, the frontier was theirs not by force but by spirit. Alara whispered to herself, a vow carried on the hum of the station. "I will rise. I will contribute. I will help Dustfall thrive. Not because I must, but because I choose to." And with that, the legend of Dustfall and the humans who made it extraordinary continued to grow, quietly, steadily, and unbroken, shining like a beacon in the infinite darkness of space.